Box to Box NBA Preview, hosted by Ndegz.
Welcome to my NBA preview. And one of the good things about not having put this thing up at the beginning of the season, which I hoped I would have done, is that this team that's next made a big trade and it just changed everything. Of course, I'm talking about the LA Clippers, and they just traded for Harden. But in trading for Harden, they traded away a lot of assets, and we'll get into that shortly. This is how the team did in the 22-23 season. 44-38 record, finished 5th in the West. They were tied with GSW. Then they basically were just in cruise control during the regular season, you know. Then for a while, they actually didn't have a point guard until they traded for Russ. They had a 4-game losing streak at least 3 times last season, which was quite high. That was before they traded for Russ. And they got Russ, Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, Mason Plumlee, and then Westbrook actually ended up being very good for them. In the playoffs, averaged 23.6 points per game, 7.9 assists against the Suns. But again, as is with the Clippers, one big asterisk, one big question mark is injuries, and injuries happen. As always, Kawhi got injured, and that was the end. Basically, they lost in 5 to the Suns. They looked like they actually had a chance, you know, and they actually, when they beat them convincingly. But when Kawhi went down, that was basically it, right? PG was already out, so yeah. Roster moves. This is what they did in the off-season and after the season started, which is good for us because now we can make a comprehensive preview of this team. Of course, they acquired James Harden recently from the Philly 76ers, which to me, we'll get into that shortly. PJ Tucker and Philip Petrusev were part of the deal. Then in the offseason, actually, they got KJ Martin, Josh Primo, Kobe Brown Jr., who's a rookie, Jordan Miller, who's a rookie. They extended Russ to a 2-year, $7.8 million contract, and Mason Plumlee to a 1-year, $5 million contract. Eric Gordon, they lost Eric Gordon, who ended up at the Suns. In terms of draft picks, Kobe Brown Jr., as we said earlier, was picked with the 30th pick. A player who could have probably been a second round pick. So for them to pick him in the first round, for many people, was a bit of a surprise. Then Jordan Miller with the 48th pick is someone who can contribute to rotation, but we're not expecting too much from him too soon. Players on expiring contracts: Mason Plumlee, $5 million, Harden, who's on a 35.6 player option currently, and Brandon Boston Jr. In terms of rotation, this is how the team looks like. James Harden at point guard, shooting guard Paul George, then Terrence Mann. Trey Mann is in OKC, I think. Power forward Kawhi Leonard, and at center you have Ivica Zubac. Then on their bench, which looks a bit thin, is Westbrook, Norm Powell, Amir Coffey, PJ Tucker, Mason Plumlee, Bones Highland, Kobe Brown Jr., and Musa Diabate. My one big question for the Clippers is, how soon? Actually, okay, the most obvious one is, are they going to stay fit? But that's the question everyone asks, right? But how soon can this team gel? And can they even gel? You have 4 ball-dominant players. Over their careers, we have known them to be ball-dominant. Harden, Kawhi, PG, and Russ. Russ, of course, last year was coming off the bench, so that's something I feel like it's not going to be too much of a change for him. But when you bring in Harden, how do you make these guys play, right? One thing that they need to introduce more in their offense is movement. One person going to be dribbling the ball and the 4 guys on the sides. Kawhi needs to start getting into the pick and roll. PG needs to start getting into the pick and roll somehow. Kawhi has never been a great screener in his career. He's never been asked to screen, but I mean, he has the tools, he has the attributes, because him coming off a screen, he can attack any mismatch, right? Anyone who's attacking one-on-one is a mismatch. He's strong enough, he's shifty enough, and he's a 3-level scorer. So by 3-level, I mean he can shoot in the paint, mid-range, and at the 3-point line. So this team just needs to, I don't know how it's going to work. Harden, on the other hand, he said he's a system. I am not part of a system, I am a system. Mate, you are now part of a system. It's that time that you started running some pick and roll action. You need to start screening, you start moving, because you're not getting any younger. You're not the same player who used to just go off, right? And also the team will not allow you to do that because everyone here needs the ball. So there just needs to be a bit more of an improvement. One thing about Harden is I really, when he was at the Rockets, I really hated him. Like I was just not a big fan of his because the offense was so stagnant. It was so boring for someone who loves like running, like ball movement and stuff. But then when he went to the Nets at first, and I saw the amount of like how much he sacrificed, and I was like, wow, like this dude can actually sacrifice. Harden can actually sacrifice. He did it for a while, then they went back to factory settings. I guess that was more of the coaching, so I can't really blame him because Steve Nash was not the ideal coach at that time for that big three or big four, whatever it was. So I still believe there's something in Harden that can make him be more of a system player in the sense of he's big enough if he was just to screen 5 to 10 times a game, like just an off-ball screen here and go like if they run what's that play called? There's the play where the guards start from the middle of under the rim, and he just like for him that's like the perfect play, right? Like he's under the rim, there's a screen for him, he goes the side, catch and shoot 2 or 3 times a game. I'm not saying do it the entire game, right? But at some point he has to change how he plays. He has to be more dynamic because his style up until now has not gotten him far in the playoffs, you know, and he's going to a team with ball dominant players. So Ty Lue, this is on you, man. You have to prove to us that you are actually like you're worthy of this job, and this is probably going to be one of your toughest jobs, probably after coaching LeBron to the finals, because that comes with just a different level of pressure. But I believe in Ty Lue. I think they can do it. I just don't believe that they will be good enough to beat some of the teams in the West. But for me, 24-second prediction, shot clock. I believe the Clippers are going to be good enough to be 7th in the West. They are currently ranked 13th in my rankings, but I think they're good enough to be 7th in the West. I think they're going to just make about 48 wins. 48 wins. The good thing about this trade is if Kawhi gets injured, now you have Harden running the team with PG. Or if PG is out, then you have Harden, and you know, like, so they have players who have consistently carried teams over the course of a season. So I'm not worried about them in the regular season. I just believe it's going to cost them games, and those games are not going to make them go above 7th place. And they're going to go to the playoffs, and then in the playoffs, anything can happen. But I still think they're going to beat whoever they meet in the first round. They're beating them. That's for sure. And that is my preview for the LA Clippers. Next up is another team from the East. Biggie's hometown. Let's get it. Oh wait, it's not Biggie's hometown. Jay-Z's hometown. Let's get it.
Ready for the ultimate slam dunk of content? Don't miss out on any of our NBA previews. Hit subscribe and be the MVP of your basketball knowledge game.